like sports is such a healthy outlet for all those reasons you described, is that team camaraderie and being part of something. And like I said, I excelled at sports. I was a great athlete. And so for me, it made me feel normal. And that's the thing that I just realized, is that I'm getting attention not for being part of a, the crazy family, but just this normal, like this great athlete. And of course that we love that feeling and feeling of acceptance. We want to feel like we belong. That's, such an important feeling. And so after high school, when, team sports ended, and because of my family situation, although I always say, like, what if my dad was alive, I probably would have played college sports, or, we can't do the what ifs. So I started running. Because I was going to college, but there was no team sport option for me. So kind of team sports were over at that point. So I started running, and I fell in love with running and started doing 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons and triathlon. I mean, one thing, it just kept going. And again, so when you say it took me down a road, and sports is such a great coping skill and such a great outlet, until it's not, until you realize that there could be, negative consequences to it. And for me, it turned into overuse injuries that I'm just recently, after all these years, it's been a recent revelation for me to admit to myself. And now I'm just going to share this, because how else am I going to help other people? Is like, oh my gosh, it became an addiction for me.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, I think when we talk about addiction, or we talk about unhealthy engagement in something, people think about the, kind of the Vegas addictions, the Sin City, the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, the gambling, but we can become addicted to shopping. We can become addictive to exercising when it detaches us from reality, when we're using it in unhealthy ways. I mean, I always tell people about my own battle with substance abuse. It's really not about what I drank, because I didn't drink the same thing everyone else drank. And it's not really about how much I drank. It was always about why I drank. And I was drinking to escape. I was really taken aback, and I don't think you and I share this alone. Many others do. That idea of, if I can go somewhere else, I'll be somewhere else. I grew up in Maine, and I'm in California. That was a lot of versions of myself I wanted to create. And I had that same image of every summer, wanting to unzip my skin and walk out and be faster, stronger. But I could just, if I went here, no one would know what happened to me. And, I think the cautionary tale there is, wherever you go, there you are, yes. Right? And so there is no escaping us until we get good with us. But you were trying to do that, and sport allowed that. And then I'm sure with exercising, as you said, everyone exercises. I'm just running. I'm not, you're not seeing, were there any signs besides what you encountered now that you were using it in an unhealthy way to escape? I mean, did you lose contact with friends? Did you have any negative consequences associated with your addiction to sport as it grew?
So it's just so interesting, because I look back now, and I remember, even like, I'm thinking as you're talking to me, I remember when, like you said, you would come to my class and talk to my college freshmen and tell them your story. And I would teach this unit on addiction, and we would talk about how there are no healthy addictions, because I would ask them at the beginning of class, like, do you think there are any healthy addictions? And they would always say, exercise, studying, like they would make up stuff, drinking water, like. And the thing is, by definition, there can be no good addiction, because there's negative consequences. So if there's negative consequences, and even then I would read them this checklist of negative consequences, and I'm even thinking just right now as we're talking about this, I was, there's a denial phase, right? We're in denial.
Yes.
Even then I was in such denial, because here's the thing, is like, there's not a body part on me, I think, that I haven't had surgery on.
Wow.
Like, that is not something to be proud of, right? And it's taking me this long to realize that is a negative consequence.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Amazing.
Right? And so when you say, like, there's a story that I can tell you that was so, like, now to look back on it, I was doing the Santa Barbara triathlon. I think I was in my early 20s, maybe. It was when I first started doing triathlons, or a few years into it. And I had this fantasy. It's like I talk about, it's like, growing up, I wanted to be an Olympic athlete, because I just thought that will just make me, like, doesn't matter about this crazy family. If I'm an Olympic athlete with with a medal around my neck with the national anthem playing. Like, there's nothing better to me than that. So I grew up with these fantasies of wanting to be this Olympic athlete. And so I was doing triathlons, and they were going to have triathlon be an Olympic sport for the first time. And I thought, I'm going to do this. Like, this is how like my brain worked, like that I thought I could actually do this. And so I wanted to be like one of, in the first triathlon. So I was having problems with my hands and anyways, I wasn't supposed to do the race. I was told by the doctors to not do the triathlon. So I snuck out of the house at 4 a.m. with my bike, went to do the triathlon. It's a 34-mile bike ride, and this is so long ago that this is when the brakes were like not at the handlebar, or you had to and so I lost all grip strength in my hands, so I couldn't change my gears, and I'm using the palm, like my palm of my hand, to change my gears. And then at the end, I finished the race. At the end of the race, I couldn't even start my car. I couldn't even turn the key to start the car because I had no grip strength in my hands. I had to ask a stranger, this is going to sound really weird, but could you just start my car for me? And even like back then, looking back, I didn't think that there was really like, oh, I'm just injured. So I ended up having it was nerve entrapment in my elbows, kind of like carpal tunnel, but in my elbows. And so I had double elbow surgery. And I look back now and it's like, don't you think that that was kind of a sign that you just, so like my mind was just like, I'm going to do this no matter what.
Right.
Because this is how I feel good.
Right. And this is how I cope.
Yes.
This is how I feel normal. I mean,
yes.
you said it all the way back to Long Island. I want to feel normal. I live in a crazy house. I live in an unpredictable house. I want to feel
yes.
normal. And if that means I have to run with broken elbows and frozen hands to feel normal, I'll hurt myself. And
yes.
but I mean, again, revisionist history, right? We look through these lenses and we go, wow, I mean, and that, I think a lot of people will appreciate the vulnerability and appreciate, looking at the unhealthy attachment to things we're using to avoid or normalize life that are causing us actual pain.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. So transition us to the next chapter. I mean, because now we move into a period where, obviously you've got children and,
mm-hmm.
and you get into a relationship and then you become a single mom. And so
yes.
life takes on a new chapter for you.
Yes.
And what was that like?
So, yes, I've been a single mom now it's going to be 11 years next month, which I mean, time passes and you just like, I look back and go, how did I do that? And you just do it.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about that because I think that's probably something a lot of, especially the people that rely on you, deal with, is that feeling of being overwhelmed with the uncertainty of being a single parent and what that means and how am I going to do all of this? And I know that's become one of your passions. And so what are the lessons that you learned? I mean, as overwhelming as it seemed, you're now 11 years on the other side of it. What are the things that seemed so overwhelming and what are the things that helped you kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I remember at the time when I was even just kind of contemplating being in this situation, and I will never forget this. I had a friend who told me, you'll figure it out. You will figure it out. And it sounds like, yeah, so I talk about these 5 words that I talk about, of getting it's like a 5-word mantra that I just have taken with me that sounds like it's not a big deal. Like, oh, you'll just figure it out. Right. But I really embraced it and I never forgot that. And it's really so powerful because I do believe, and I talk about this too, is there's that book, Everything is Figure Outable by Maria Forleo. And I was saying that way before to my students. I used to tell my students, everything's figure outable. And so they thought that I made it up. And I'm like, I didn't make it up, but it's true. And it really is true, is one way or another. I mean, when you think about all the moments that we've gotten through in our life, we've gotten through them one way or another, and we will get through all the moments of our life. It's like that resilience you talk about. We were born with it, but we forget about it. And so it's just that, yeah, you will figure it out. And so back then, there's a moment that I remember, another one of my just like, aha moments or defining moments is I remember sitting on the floor of the bathroom sobbing after, I had moved out with my children. My son was 2.5, not even 3, he's in diapers. My daughter's 6 years old. We had our dog at the time, and I'm on the floor sobbing, asking, how am I going to do this? And doing what many of us do, why me? Like, I was doing the why me. Like, why me, God? Like, could I at least have had a healthy mom, or like at least one family member? This was like a huge moment for me when I just decide, something inside me said, you need to ask a better question, because the thing is whatever we ask, we're going to get an answer. So if we ask bad questions, we're going to get bad answers. So something inside me told me to, because I always believe that God gives us what we can handle. And then I thought, I was just so in that place, like, that's not good enough for me. I need more. I need to know. And so I chose to believe in that moment that God gave me what I can handle. That means that I have the strength to get through this, that it's like, I can't change any of this, but I get to decide what to do with it. And it just felt so empowering, scary. I still don't know how, but I just felt like I get to decide what to do with this. And I decided to ask, instead of why me, why not me? Like, who do I think I am to not get this life?